to me.
Picture this. You're America's sweetheart in the 1960s, with the #1 song in the country and millions of fans who adore you. But by 1999, you're lying in a hospital bed, weighing only 90 pounds, waiting to die because your liver is failing. Doctors found you collapsed in a pool of blood, and now you're on a waiting list where half the people don't survive. This is the heartbreaking true story of Shelley Fabares, the sweet girl who sang Johnny Angel and played the perfect daughter on The Donna Reed Show. What happened to this beloved star is more tragic than most people ever realized. Behind her bright smile and cheerful songs was a lifetime of pain, loss, and medical battles that would have destroyed most people. Today, you're going to discover the real story of Shelley Fabares, a story of childhood trauma, broken dreams, and an incredible fight for survival that lasted decades. Shelley Fabares was born on January 19, 1944, in Santa Monica, California, during the final months of World War II. From the very beginning, her life was marked by struggle and uncertainty. Her mother, Elsa, had once dreamed of being a dancer and still held on to hopes of making it in Hollywood. Her father, James, worked in real estate, but times were incredibly hard for the family. When Shelley was barely 2 years old, something that would shape her entire future began. Her mother started taking her to movie sets, where little Shelley would watch actors and copy everything they did. She was naturally drawn to performing, but this early exposure to the entertainment world would come with a price that nobody could have predicted at the time. In 1954, when Shelley was just 10 years old, she received one of the early polio vaccines during a scary time when this terrible disease was spreading across America. Her mother had almost lost Shelley during pregnancy because of the stress from her husband being away during the war, but Shelley survived, and her family began to believe she was meant for something special in life. Her aunt Nanette Fabre, who was already working as a professional actress, would tell Shelley exciting stories about fame and stardom while babysitting her. These stories filled young Shelley's head with dreams, but they also planted seeds that would later grow into unrealistic expectations about what her life should be like. When Shelley was only 3 years old in 1947, her world completely fell apart. Her parents got divorced, and it wasn't a peaceful separation. There were terrible arguments about money, and rumors spread about cheating and betrayal. Her mother was awarded custody of Shelley, but she only received $50 per month in support, which would be about $700 today. This small amount of money forced them to move constantly around Los Angeles, living in tiny apartments wherever they could afford rent. Shelley often remembered hiding under beds during her parents' screaming fights and crying herself to sleep night after night. The trauma of these early years would follow her for the rest of her life. Her mother, Elsa, had to work several different jobs just to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads, while Aunt Nanette tried to help financially whenever she could. By 1955, Shelley's father had completely disappeared from her life and started a new family with someone else. He never came back or tried to maintain a relationship with his daughter. This kind of abandonment left deep emotional scars that Shelley carried into adulthood. In 1948, when Shelley was just 4 years old, she began working as a child model to help support her struggling family. She posed for Sears catalogs and earned only $5 per photo shoot. It wasn't much money, but every single dollar helped them survive from week to week. The family's financial situation was so desperate that they had to move through 7 different apartments by 1952. Often their dinner consisted of nothing more than 1 can of soup split between them. Shelley wore secondhand clothes that didn't fit properly, but she worked as hard as any adult despite being just a small child. By the time she was 6 years old, Shelley had already completed 15 different modeling jobs. The work was exhausting and demanding for such a young person. In 1950, one photographer tried to make her work for too many hours, and her mother finally pulled her away to protect her from being overworked. In 1951, they came dangerously close to being evicted from their apartment because they couldn't pay rent. Aunt Nanette had to give them $200 to keep them from becoming homeless. That same year, Shelley started auditioning for acting roles, hoping to earn more money than modeling provided. School was another source of pain and humiliation for young Shelley. She attended Grant Elementary School in North Hollywood from 1949 to 1955, where she had to deal with cruel bullying every single day. She had developed a slight speech problem due to a childhood accident, and the other children called her Stutter She, Ellie, and made fun of her constantly. In 1952, the bullying became physical when one particularly mean child shoved her so hard that she broke her arm. Instead of receiving sympathy and support, Shelley was made to feel like it was somehow her fault. The other kids whispered that her family was weird and wrong because of her parents' divorce, which made her feel even more isolated and different from everyone else. To escape from this daily torture, Shelley started joining drama classes after school. Her aunt encouraged her to perform and express herself through acting. In 1954, she won a school talent show by performing a dramatic speech, and for the first time in her life, she felt strong and confident instead of ashamed and scared. But even this small victory couldn't stop the bullying, which continued to make her school years miserable. The constant rejection and cruelty from her classmates made Shelley dream of escaping into a different world, and that world was professional acting. Behind the scenes, Shelley's home life remained difficult and unstable. Her mother, Elsa, had been struggling with severe depression since the 1940s, and after the divorce in 1947, her mental health became even worse. Shelley would sometimes have to hide in closets or under furniture during her mother's emotional outbursts and breakdowns. In 1950, during one particularly bad episode, Elsa became so upset that she broke dishes and had to be hospitalized for her own safety. In 1952, when Shelley was just 8 years old, she found her mother after a suicide attempt. Aunt Nanette managed to keep this terrifying incident secret from everyone, including Shelley's younger siblings, but the trauma of discovering her mother in that condition stayed with Shelley forever. Later in life, in 1988, Elsa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, which slowly began stealing away her memory and personality. By 1990, Shelley had to make the heartbreaking decision to place her mother in a care facility because Elsa could no longer even remember her daughter's name. This was a lifetime of mental health struggles and pain that seemed to pass from mother to daughter like a terrible inheritance. In 1954, when Shelley was just 10 years old, she appeared on television for the first time in an episode of The Loretta Young Show. Despite being completely new to acting, Shelley performed a difficult crying scene in just one take, and everyone on the set was amazed by her natural talent. Loretta Young was so impressed that she gave Shelley a beautiful necklace as a gift. But this success came after Shelley had already been rejected for 20 different roles. The rejection was painful, but she kept trying because her family desperately needed the money. The working days were extremely long and tiring for a child. Even though there were laws saying children weren't supposed to work more than 4 hours per day, Shelley often worked double that amount. In 1955, at age 11, she acted in a film called The Girl Rush alongside her Aunt Nanette. They filmed it in Las Vegas during a brutal heat wave when temperatures reached over 100 degrees. The working conditions were so harsh that Shelley actually fainted from dehydration during filming. She had no professional dance training, but she was still expected to perform a complicated tap dancing number alongside experienced adult performers. Despite all her hard work and the physical demands of the job, she only earned $100 for the entire film, even though the movie went on to make over $1 million at the box office. That same year, she appeared in television shows like Captain Midnight and Annie Oakley, but she remembered being teased constantly about her height. She was only 4 feet 10 inches tall at the time, and it made her feel self-conscious and insecure about her appearance. Her big breakthrough came in 1958 when she was 14 years old. She landed a major role in the Disney series Annette, alongside Annette Funicello, who was already a big star. Shelley played a snobby rival character, and in one scene, she accidentally slapped Annette for real instead of fake slapping her. Disney had to edit the scene, but they also fined Shelley $50 for the mistake. The show was hugely popular, with 10 million viewers watching every week, and Shelley suddenly became a teen star. She and Annette became close friends in real life, which helped make the work more enjoyable. But the working days were incredibly long, sometimes 16 hours, and tutors only provided 3 hours of actual education per day. One episode dealt with bullying, which mirrored the real bullying that Shelley had faced at school. Filming that particular episode brought back all the painful memories of being tormented by her classmates, and she had trouble getting through some of the scenes. Between 1954 and 1958, Shelley struggled constantly to balance school with her demanding work schedule. She attended Immaculate Heart High School for just a few hours each day, but producers would often keep her on set for up to 10 hours at a time. In 1957 alone, she missed 45 days of school because of work commitments. Although Shelley had a high IQ and was naturally intelligent, she graduated with only average grades because the tutoring she received on movie sets was poor quality and inconsistent. She was also turned down for over 100 different acting roles during this period. Once in 1956, she lost a part simply because she was considered too tall at 5 feet 4 inches. This constant rejection gave Shelley serious body image issues and led to a brief but concerning eating disorder as she tried to change her appearance to fit what casting directors wanted. When she was 13, one director made inappropriate comments to her, but fortunately, Aunt Nanette was there to protect her and remove her from that dangerous situation. By 1959, at age 15, Shelley signed a 7-year contract with Columbia Pictures that paid her $10,000 per year. While this seemed like a lot of money, the contract gave her almost no control over the roles she would play or the conditions she would work under. She had to work extremely long hours, including 18-hour days on the film Never Say Goodbye with Rock Hudson. Rock played her father in the movie and was kind to her, giving her acting books to help improve her skills. But despite working for 20 days, she earned only $300 while the movie made over $1.6 million at the box office. This was her first real experience with how unfair and exploitative the entertainment business could be. Everything changed again in 1958 when Shelley joined the cast of The Donna Reed Show as Mary Stone, the perfect daughter. She stayed on this show until 1963, filming around 163 episodes over 5 years. The show was a massive hit, with up to 20 million people watching every week across America. While Shelley played the ideal teenager on television, in real life she was actually shy and quiet, struggling to deal with the pressures of fame. The workdays were often 12 hours long, and she missed out on all the normal experiences that other teenagers were having, things like school dances, dating, and just hanging out with friends. But 1962 would bring Shelley her biggest success and also plant the seeds for future disappointment. She recorded a song called Johnny Angel, and even though she openly admitted that she couldn't really sing very well, the song became a phenomenon. It reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart on April 7th and stayed there for 2 weeks. Over 1 million copies were sold, making Shelley a major recording star almost overnight. She had recorded the song in late 1961 while still working on The Donna Reed Show, and she even lip-synced it during one of the television episodes. Behind the scenes, she had help from some of the best musicians in the business, including Glenn Campbell on guitar, but nobody expected it to become such a huge teenage anthem. The song also hit number 1 in Canada and number 41 in the United Kingdom, making Shelley famous around the world in a way that surprised even her. Later that same year, she released a follow-up song called Johnny Loves Me, which continued the story of the girl getting Johnny's love in return. While it didn't reach the same incredible heights as the first song, it still made it to number 21 on the charts. But juggling her television career while also trying to maintain a music career was exhausting for someone who was still just a teenager. The pressure started wearing her down physically and emotionally, and her voice became tired from overuse, though she pushed through anyway because so many people were depending on her success. That same year, she released her first full album, simply called Shelley, which featured her hit song plus other tracks she recorded during late-night sessions after finishing her television work. She even did a duet with her co-star Paul Peterson, who played her brother on the show. Some of the songs had an unusual jazzy feel, which was different from typical teen pop music of that era. Even though Shelley was unsure about her singing abilities and felt insecure about her voice, she gave everything she had to make the album successful. But 1962 wasn't just about music success. Her record label tried to make her even more famous by creating a completely fake romance between her and pop star Fabian Forte. They arranged staged dates and photo opportunities to keep Shelley in the entertainment headlines and generate publicity. Shelley never liked this deception and felt uncomfortable pretending to have feelings for someone she barely knew. She was still just a teenager and was already feeling overwhelmed by the weight of fame and public attention. All the rumors and gossip began affecting her personally and emotionally in ways that nobody seemed to care about. This whole fake relationship made her feel used and manipulated, especially since Fabian himself had been built up by the music industry in a similar artificial way. The constant pressure to maintain this lie became too much for her to handle, and by late 1962, her interest in continuing her music career was starting to fade as film offers began pulling her in a different direction. By 1963, everything had changed in the music world. The Beatles were taking over and dominating the charts, and Shelley's songs weren't successful like they used to be. One of her last notable singles was "Ronnie Call Me When You Get a Chance," which only made it to number 16 in Canada and didn't chart well anywhere else. That summer, during a concert at the famous Hollywood Bowl, something truly frightening happened that showed how dangerous teen fame could become. Thousands of screaming fans rushed the stage where Shelley was performing, and she was nearly trampled by the crowd. Security guards couldn't control the situation, and she had to be rushed off the stage for her own safety. This terrifying experience marked the end of her music career. She realized that the music business had become too dangerous and unpredictable, so she decided to focus entirely on acting again, hoping it would be safer and more fulfilling. In 1964, she appeared in a beach movie called Ride the Wild Surf, where she played a girl trying to convince a surfer to return to school. They filmed it in Hawaii, where some of the ocean waves reached 30 feet high, creating dangerous conditions for the actors. The following year, in 1965, Shelley starred with Elvis Presley in Girl Happy, playing a college student caught up in a beach romance. The movie was released in April and made over $3 million at the box office. People began whispering about a possible real-life romance between Shelley and Elvis because their on-screen chemistry seemed so natural and intense. Shelley had just married music producer Lou Adler in 1964, but fans still speculated about her relationship with Elvis. She later said that Elvis was always kind and respectful toward her, but the rumors about them never completely went away, which put additional strain on her new marriage. In 1966, she starred in Hold On with Herman's Hermits, a British pop group. During one fast-paced dance scene, her costume ripped accidentally, which was embarrassing and led to cruel comments about her body from critics and audiences. This incident hurt her deeply and made her think privately about the impossible pressure that women faced in Hollywood to look perfect at all times. That same year, she appeared in Spin Out with Elvis again, and in 1967, they did their third film together called Clambake. In this movie, Shelley played a woman who initially chased after rich men, but eventually found real love. She had to learn go-go dancing for the role, which required 12-hour rehearsals that were physically exhausting. The movie sets were often chaotic, with fans sneaking in and taking unauthorized photographs, but Shelley said Elvis always tried his best to protect her from the craziness and intrusions. In 1968, she took on a much more serious and challenging role in A Time to Sing, which showed the darker side of fame and required her to dig deep emotionally as an actress. The role was so demanding that she actually experienced anxiety attacks during filming and had to see a therapist for help dealing with the stress. The movie didn't make much money at the box office, but it proved that Shelley could handle dramatic, complex roles instead of just playing sweet, innocent characters. That same year, Shelley's marriage to Lou Adler finally ended in divorce. They had actually separated years earlier, around 1966, but didn't officially divorce until December 1980. Shelley later revealed that rumors of Adler having affairs with other famous women had devastated her emotionally. This happened during a time when her career was still successful and busy, but the emotional pain of betrayal and divorce stayed with her for many years. She never had children during this marriage, which was something she rarely talked about publicly. Some people believe that health issues may have played a role in her not becoming a mother. After her painful divorce, Shelley found love again when she married actor Mike Farrell on December 31, 1984. Mike became her true partner in every way, supporting her through both good times and terrible challenges that were yet to come. When Shelley had a serious accident in 1994, falling through the floor of her house that was under construction and breaking multiple ribs, Mike was by her side throughout her recovery. But this accident revealed something even more frightening than broken bones. Tests showed that Shelley had developed autoimmune hepatitis, a condition where her own immune system was attacking her liver. By 1999, her liver was failing completely, and she nearly died from massive internal bleeding. She had to spend 22 months waiting for a liver transplant, knowing that over half the people on transplant waiting lists don't survive long enough to receive an organ. Mike took care of her through this entire terrifying ordeal, helping her survive when everything seemed hopeless. She finally received a new liver on October 23, 2000, in a surgery that saved her life but nearly killed her due to serious complications and infections afterward. During the period when her health was declining, Shelley continued working whenever she was strong enough. From 1989 to 1997, she starred in the popular television show Coach as Christine Armstrong. Her character was intelligent and strong, and the role earned her 2 Emmy nominations, proving that she was still a talented and relevant actress. In one particularly emotional episode from 1993, her character learned that she couldn't have children. This scene was extremely difficult for Shelley to film because it mirrored her own real-life situation and brought up painful feelings about never becoming a mother. After her liver transplant, Shelley's on-screen acting became too physically demanding, so she moved into voice acting work. From 1996 to 2000, she provided the voice for Martha Kent, Superman's adoptive mother, in an animated television series. It was a quieter but meaningful role that came at a time when her health made regular acting impossible. She said that voice acting was a blessing because it allowed her to continue working and being creative while she was recovering from her life-threatening illness. Her final acting role was in the 2006 animated film Superman Brainiac Attacks, after which she retired from performing at age 62. Throughout all of these health crises and career changes, her marriage to Mike Farrell provided stability and love that she had never experienced before. By 2025, they had been together for 41 years, and Shelley often said that Mike was her safe place, the person who helped her survive when everything else felt impossible. Though she never had biological children of her own, she became a devoted stepmother to Mike's children from his previous marriage and poured her heart into raising awareness for organ donation and Alzheimer's disease research after losing her mother to dementia in 1992. The 1994 accident that led to the discovery of Shelley's liver disease was truly a life-changing moment. She was at home while construction work was being done when the floor beneath her suddenly gave way. She fell hard through broken floor joists and crashed down with such force that she shattered every rib on the left side of her body. When she was rushed to the hospital for treatment of her broken ribs, doctors noticed that her liver enzymes were extremely high, much higher than they should have been. At first, nobody understood why this was happening. They treated her rib injuries, but her liver numbers remained dangerously elevated. Shelley, who was still working on Coach at age 50, quietly lived with this medical mystery for several years, taking medications that helped but never truly solved the underlying problem. That terrible fall hadn't just broken her ribs, it had uncovered a silent disease that was slowly killing her from the inside. In early 1999, the nightmare became real when Shelley collapsed after suffering a massive internal bleeding episode. She was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where doctors finally figured out what had been wrong all along. Shelley had autoimmune hepatitis, meaning her own immune system had been attacking and destroying her liver for years without her knowing it. Her liver was now failing completely, and she was told something that changed her life forever. She would die without a liver transplant. There were no other treatment options available. Her doctors warned her that another bleeding episode could kill her instantly, and she lived every day knowing that her time might be running out. She was added to the organ transplant waiting list in April 1999, fully aware that over half of the people on these lists don't survive long enough to receive a new organ. The statistics were terrifying, but it was her only hope for survival. As days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months, Shelley waited and waited. From April 1999 to October 2000, she spent 22 agonizing months on the transplant list. During this time, she could barely function physically and felt like someone much older than her actual age of 55. She slept most of the time because her failing body simply couldn't stay awake. Sometimes she would wake up feeling incredibly thirsty, but couldn't even walk to the kitchen to get water because she was too weak. Every moment felt like borrowed time, with the constant fear that she might not wake up the next morning. Her doctors kept reminding her how dangerous another bleeding episode would be. It could kill her within minutes. She lived in constant fear, knowing that her pager could ring at any moment with news of an available liver, but also knowing that many false alarms would crush her hopes over and over again. Finally, on October 23, 2000, the call came. A liver was available, and Shelley was rushed into surgery. The transplant operation saved her life, but recovery was almost as dangerous as the disease itself. Immediately after surgery, her body was attacked by serious infections that threatened to kill her. There was also the constant risk that her immune system would reject the new liver, which would mean certain death. Her doctors watched carefully for every sign that the transplant might be failing, while her weakened body struggled to heal from the major surgery. Mike helped her with everything during this recovery period: bathing, eating, walking, and taking medications. The infections that developed after surgery nearly took her life again, and the recovery process required every ounce of strength she had left. She had survived the surgery and received the gift of life through organ donation, but she was forever changed by the experience. The trauma of nearly dying and the long, difficult recovery left emotional and physical scars that would never completely heal. Years earlier, in 1992, Shelley had already faced another devastating loss when her mother Elsa passed away from Alzheimer's disease after battling the condition for 9 painful years. Watching her mother slowly lose her memory, personality, and ability to recognize her own daughter was heartbreaking beyond description. Elsa had once promised that she would never want to live through such an illness, but when the time came, she had forgotten making that promise. After her mother's death, Shelley found those words written in Elsa's personal belongings, which made the loss even more painful. The experience of watching Alzheimer's destroy her mother turned Shelley into a passionate advocate for research and family support. She became the national spokesperson for the Alzheimer's Association in 1988, even before her mother's death, and worked tirelessly to raise awareness and funding. She spoke to Congress 4 times between the late 1980s and early 1990s, helping to raise millions of dollars for medical research. In 2000, she opened an Alzheimer's Center at California State University, Northridge, and continued fighting for caregivers and families dealing with this terrible disease. Shelley often admitted that she feared she might develop Alzheimer's herself, given that it ran in her family, but she held on to hope that scientific research would find a cure before that could happen. Her advocacy work gave her a sense of purpose and meaning during some of the darkest periods of her life. After her successful liver transplant in 2000, Shelley didn't retreat from public life. Instead, she used her near-death experience to advocate for organ donation and help other people who were facing similar medical crises. She spoke openly about how close she had come to dying and encouraged people to become organ donors. She appeared at medical conferences and told audiences that one organ donor could save or improve up to 50 different lives. She explained the horror of waiting on a transplant list, the constant weakness and fear, and the fact that over half the people waiting for organs don't survive long enough to receive them. Her husband Mike stood by her side at these speaking events, and she always referred to her unknown donor as a blessing who had given her the gift of life. She never stopped being grateful for that second chance and used her remaining years to help others in similar situations. In the 2020s, Shelley surprised everyone by adopting a completely new look that showed her resilience and fighting spirit. She dyed her hair bright pink and styled it into a spiky, punk-inspired cut that was bold and attention-grabbing. This dramatic change shocked fans who were used to seeing her as the sweet, wholesome girl from the Donna Reed show. But this new hairstyle meant something important. It was a symbol of survival and strength. She had actually trademarked various pink hair colors back in 1999, and now, at age 79, she wore her pink hair proudly as a badge of honor for everything she had overcome. People began seeing her at public events wearing Ziggy Stardust sweatshirts and other rock and roll inspired clothing. She had officially retired from acting in 2006, But she hadn't stopped being true to herself and expressing her personality. The pink hair, the bold attitude, and her continued honesty about her struggles told a story of incredible resilience. She had faced death multiple times and come back stronger and more vibrant than before. Her new look was her way of showing the world that she refused to be defined by her illnesses or her past traumas. In 2025, Shelley is 81 years old and lives quietly in Los Angeles with Mike, her husband of more than 40 years. They were married on June 9, 1984, and through all the chaos and challenges of Hollywood life, their love has remained constant and strong. On July 26, 2025, they were photographed walking hand-in-hand through a park in Burbank. Shelley had pink streaks in her blonde hair and flashed a peace sign at the cameras. Mike wore a hat with a political message, showing that they both remain engaged with the world around them, despite their advanced age. It was a rare public appearance that reminded fans of everything Shelley had survived: the childhood trauma, the demanding career, the failed marriages, the life-threatening illness, the liver transplant, the dangerous infections, years of advocacy work, and countless other challenges that would have broken most people. But just 1 year earlier, in late 2024, something frightening happened again that showed how fragile life can be, even for survivors like Shelley. She suffered a minor stroke at age 80, which happened suddenly and caused temporary weakness and confusion. She was rushed to a private medical clinic and initially kept the incident quiet, but news of her stroke eventually became public through entertainment industry websites in 2025. Fortunately, she made a complete recovery by early 2025, once again crediting Mike with being by her side and taking excellent care of her during this health scare. This was her first major medical emergency since the rib fractures back in 1994 that had led to the discovery of her liver disease. But once again, she survived against the odds and surprised everyone by appearing in public just months later, smiling and waving as if nothing could ever keep her down. People who had loved her since the 1960s couldn't believe how much strength and determination she still possessed after everything she had been through. Every chapter of her life had demonstrated just how far someone could go when they absolutely refused to give up, no matter how impossible the situation might seem. Shelley Fabares' story is ultimately one of incredible survival against overwhelming odds. From a childhood marked by poverty, divorce, and bullying, through the pressures of early fame and the pain of failed relationships, to life-threatening illness and miraculous recovery, she has faced more challenges than most people could imagine. Yet at 81, she continues to live with dignity, love, and the kind of bright spirit that made her famous more than 60 years ago. Her pink hair and peaceful smile are symbols of a life lived with courage, resilience, and an unshakable determination to find joy even in the darkest circumstances. If this incredible story of survival and strength touched your heart, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear about the power of never giving up. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about the real lives behind Hollywood's biggest stars. Because sometimes the most important stories are about how people overcome the impossible and keep shining their light in the world.